Today we're talking about my mistakes that I've made in my long distance relationships that you want to avoid. Amongst all the things that we spend in this life, it's time and money. So let's split it up that way. Money. I wish I saved more. So when it comes to visiting your significant other and cutting the long distance, even just temporarily, there are some money expenses that you gotta worry about. Fiancé visa, spousal visa, applications. My fiancé is from the Philippines and I'm over here in the United States. Of course, we want to end the long distance and we want her to come over here to the United States. It's not going to be free, Mike. It's not going to be free. I mean, of course, that's an obvious thing, but my wallet, my budget does not reflect those applications that I should have been saving for. I want to say it's over $1,000 just for her to go from the Philippines to over here. That wasn't thinking. Like, what did I expect? Money would just fall from the heavens just for me to be able to pay for her to come here? Wishful thinking. Saving for the wedding. Whether the wedding will be in the Philippines or whether the wedding would be here in the United States, there's still a lot of things to save for. Once I started putting a name to every item that I was paying for, those expenses were a lot more than I thought I was going to be paying for. Honeymoon, plane tickets, giveaways, venue, vendors, photo and video, decorations, and that's just like the basic stuff. I'm not complaining for spending on a wedding. I'm complaining that I did not think to save for that, especially in the beginning, when I should have been saving a little bit more at a time, rather than trying to save lots of amounts of money over a short period of time. And one of my biggest regrets about spending money is that I did not save enough for my fiance, but because I spent more money on myself and also my hobbies, which is photography and video. Ideally, I would do those photo and video jobs and pay for the gear that way, but instead I worked overtime to pay for that, instead of using that overtime to pay for my future life with my future wife. Whether you're in a long distance relationship or not, most of the decisions that you make while in that relationship or even before that relationship is that you are saving and spending your time and money into a future that you see yourselves together in. So from the wedding to the married life to the parental life and beyond. Speaking of which, let's talk about the regrets of my time. Video games. I enjoy video games from time to time, but it definitely becomes a problem when I don't have a time management kind of boundary. Like, I'm not against having time for myself, time for my girlfriend, time for my friends, but when you kind of like scribble the lines, the boundaries, it kind of becomes diluted and then your girlfriend gets mad at you. That is not a happy wife, happy life situation. I went to the Philippines for my nursing school and I had 2 weeks from my semester break and I spent it going home to the United States and having a time with my friends, having some good times with my girlfriend, but also having a good time for myself through video game because the internet was a lot faster in the United States than it was over in the Philippines. Girlfriend was not happy. Moral of the story, set your boundaries, have time for everything. Some time is better than no time, and just know where your priorities lie. We need our personal time too. Time is not always money, but it will cost you. Another thing that I regret with my time is making promises with it. I've been in 3 long distance relationships. A lot of what I was doing in my first 2 relationships was that I was promising all these things that I couldn't keep, all these things that I couldn't guarantee. And I was pressuring myself to try to prove to these girls that, hey, I love you, our love will last. I really love you, I want to show you those things. I don't want to look like a liar. I want you to be able to have faith and have comfort that I'm the man who's going to be there for you in the end. My current relationship, I'm not like that. Not to say that I'm not romantic, and it's not to say that I don't care about this girl, but it's a different kind of mindset. Because I'm not promising that, hey, I'm going to provide you everything. No, it's because I love her that I will provide what I can. And of course, it's going to be the best that I can give. But I don't frame things as, oh, I'm going to love you forever, and everything that I do for you will have your approval of me and just make me look amazing in your eyes. And that you will always love me. Yeah, too many rom-coms. But anyway, today I'm not making promises about making her fall in love with me over and over again. She accepts me for who I am, and I'm not trying to be anything more than who I am. I'm not going to pretend to be anybody else. In regards to my relationship, I'm just telling her that, hey, I'm committed to you. I'm committed to this relationship. I'm making myself exclusive to you. I'm committing my time and my money and my efforts just for you, for us, ultimately. I'm not promising that you'll like me all the way to the end. I am committing to this idea that, hey, we're going to figure this out. Once we're married, like, hey, I'm not a guy who believes in divorce, at least for ourselves. Like, yes, there are valid reasons to have a divorce, but I'm not saying when the tough gets going, have a divorce. Like, I want to endure tough times with you so that we can figure this out and test our characters and problem solve things together. Like, hey, I don't want problems, but if they come up, I want to work it out with you. So really what I mean to say is I want to spend more of my time being realistic. Another one of the regrets of my time is that I did not spend time reading books about relationships. I used to think that books were just a chore. I didn't like reading them. I was a slow reader. But now things like audiobooks and Speechify totally do away with that. I also used to think that books were kind of corny, like asking my parents for advice, which is valuable, by the way. But sometimes it's like it doesn't really bridge the answer of what I want and what I'm looking for when you compare it to what they're actually telling me and what advice they're giving me. But once you get the good recommendations of books that you can use, then yes, books become more value to you. Like I read a book about depression and how to deal with depression, anxiety, and anger through the book SOS Emotions, which I made a video about, by the way. That taught me how to communicate better, not only with myself, but with my fiance. It's not a book about relationships, but it helps. And then there's Gary Chapman's Love Languages books. In long distance relationships, communication is a big key. And there are ways to show and communicate that, hey, I love you. And Gary Chapman nails it on the head with different versions and different specific books that he has on love languages. I read the one for men, and that's the one that I also cover here. It's valuable to read the situations that other couples are going through. Even though I'm not married yet, even though I'm engaged and I am long distant from my fiance, there's still value for me to have when I read other people's situations and how these different books, these doctors, consultants, pastors, psychologists, love coaches, whoever, to just add their perspective and add their 2 cents to how to make this relationship better. On this channel, I emphasize adding life to what matters. And if what matters is our relationship with our significant others, then it makes sense to invest our time and our money into these things. If investing $10 on one tip to make my future wife happier for a year, 10 years, for the rest of our marriage, then that's a no-brainer. Add life to what matters, because what matters will add to your life. Another one of my regrets is that I did not start my fiance visa application earlier. Like, yes, it's easy to fill in like the name, date, addresses, and who's your parents, but really the part that you really want to start is the narrative. Like, what's your love story? Because you're not just writing it for the internet, you're really writing it for the person who's going to prove like, your relationship is legit. Approved. Come in for the interview. And if there's anything that I don't like to procrastinate, it's like that thing. For me, being in a long distance relationship and for me trying to get her from the Philippines to here, it's important to get everything in a speedy way. Like the week after I proposed, I should have just like sent that sucker in. But because I didn't, it took me like a whole month in between work to just write the narrative of, hey, this is how we met. This is our history. This is where our history is going. Or here's a proof of our history. Here's some pictures. Here's some itineraries and supporting documents. And just compile that into a folder. Print it all at Staples or something. Get that nice paper. Colored photos. Anyway, yeah, I wish I started that earlier because of course you want to end the long distance earlier. So yeah, instead of writing it all at once, write out your love story a little bit at a time. Maybe by the end of the year, just fill out what you did, how many letters you sent, how many trips you made, what things you sponsored. Don't just document these things for the gram, but document them. Like, make it for the person who's going to read your application and verify like, hey, you're legit. And one of the last regrets that I'm going to mention in this video is that I do not spend enough time with God. I believe in the love triangle of my fiance and I and God, and how the way that we both get together is by going to God together. He's the one that holds down our relationship, gives us our values, and not only just setting the rights and the wrongs, but even just being that comfort place, that quiet place where both of us can just like surrender and be vulnerable with each other and just understand each other. Because we're not looking at each other as like two strong beings. Yes, we have grown and we have matured and there's still a lot way to go, but like God is that place. God is that person who comforts the both of us and allows us to love each other in an environment we can't find and can't make for ourselves. As comfortable as we can be and as good and wonderful as life can be, it's still nice to root ourselves down to the basics of where it all happened, and that's with God. And spending more time with God humbles me and puts me in a headspace of like, hey, I am thankful that even though we are long distant and it's been how many years and we should have been married or we could have been married at this time, all things do work together for good. And I could always be, feeling bad and throwing a pity party for myself and my fiance, but like God made a way for us to be together all these years and see each other every year and even see each other more than once a year. And again, for me to get closer to my fiance is to get closer with God, and not just to use God as if he's an expendable force or he's just like, I'm just using him and he's the middleman. No, he's the one that gives me life. He's the one who points me to what matters, and using those two things, I have a better quality of life. But hey, I want to know if there are anything that I missed, any regrets that you possibly have, or if you have seen that maybe I should consider or could consider or pass on to anybody else. And leave those things in the comments. I'd very much appreciate it. I'm Mike, reminding you to add life to what matters. I'll leave more videos about my long distance relationship here and other stuff that I've been working on. And I thank you very much again for your time and for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.